Hello, my name is Daniel Coggins here with Creator Team Press. I'm here with my colleague,
William Muraviov.
and we are going to be introducing a very special guest tonight. You want to tell us about you?
uh, Dolores Huerta.
We're going to give you these flowers. We really appreciate you for all the work that you've done throughout your life and all the accomplishments that you've made. So you are very passionate about your work and all the things that you've done for civil rights and the women's rights and all these things have really paid off, and you've made so much progress over the years. Um, how does it feel to make it so far and receive the presidential award from Barack Obama in 2012, the Medal of Freedom, and then also before that in 1998 from President Clinton, you received the um, Roosevelt Humans Award. I mean, how does that feel to you?
Oh, well, it feels great, but remembering that when I get these great honors from President Obama and President Clinton, that it's really on the backs of all of the people who did the work to form the Farm Workers Union, the people that were killed, people that were beaten, people went to jail, and the millions of people that didn't eat grapes, lettuce, or didn't drink gallon wine to make it to make the growers come to the bargaining table and to give workers the right to organize.
So a lot of people have sacrificed their lives, and you are one of those people. You've been passionately working and working, and you've made so much progress. Um, what would be some advice that you could give to the younger generation to continue fighting for these rights?
Well, the younger generation needs to know that if they do not fight to try to keep the rights that we've already won, to get the rights that they don't have today, like free tuition and free medical care, and safety from wars, that if they don't fight for these rights, they're never going to have them. Nobody will have them. So it's up to the younger generation, and including us elders, that are still around, to fight together. But you have to understand that if you do not do it, it's not going to happen.
And speaking on the younger generation, um, I'll be honest, I was not expecting your appearance, and that made me really queasy. And the more I got to Showtime, I kept thinking of my grandmother and how she came from Mexico and how I'm a generation, like my second generation, and I'm going to be going off to college soon. And so I'm so appreciative for what they've done for me. And I would like to ask you, what is some of the advice or what have you told your grandchildren and how they're going through school and your fame?
Well, I have to be honest. I don't get a lot of chance to spend with my grandchildren, but actually, the older ones the ones that are your age and a little bit older, I have been really fortunate in having them come with me to marches and to picket lines, and they're very strong. And I would say to all of the people listening, all students listening, to please get involved. Go on those marches, go on the protests, go on the picket lines, send emails to your congressman or to your state senators or assembly leaders or your city council people. Get involved. Get involved in political campaigns, find out who's who's a good progressive candidate, and come and make phone calls for them, walk precincts for them. Get involved with the green movement to save our planet, from climate change. There are so many things that we have to do right now, and so many things that are going to be affecting the young people in the future. So that's what I would say to your when you get older and have grandkids, to give them that same message and the message that I give to you.
Thank you.
Hold on, I got to think for a second. So let's talk a little bit about like what really inspired you to start fighting for the rights of the farm workers and creating these unions and stuff. Your father, he ran for political office in New Mexico, and he won the position. Was he a really helpful key player in your mission to help get civil rights and make these acts possible?
Well, actually, I was raised by my mother, and so she was kind of the inspiration. But it was good to know that my dad was an assemblyman, and I was already not living with him at the time, but he just sent us a picture when he was in the state assembly. And my dad, he was a great union organizer. He loved labor unions, and he loved the social justice. So I admired my father, but actually most of the values that I got were from my mother because she's the one that I lived with, all of my life. My mother and my father divorced when we were I was only like 2 years old.
Has anybody else played a huge influential role to you during your lifetime?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, many people. I was a Girl Scout for 10 years of my life from the time I was 8 to the time I was 18 years old. So my Girl Scout leader, Kathleen Kemp, she was a great influence. Another great gentleman who I met, his name was Fred Ross Sr., and he's the one that, excuse me, actually got me into organizing and taught me how to do house meetings and how to bring people together and how to coach people to become leaders. And so I owe a great deal to him. And of course to Cesar Chavez, who was also one of my mentors and whom I work with, directly. So there was a lot of great, and the people in the women's movement, Eleanor Smeal, Gloria Steinem, some of the great women leaders. And then some of the politicians. There was a great gentleman named John Burton, who was also really influential in teaching me how to lobby. And so, yeah, as we go through life, we meet a lot of people who teach us different things. And so we're always very grateful that these people come into our lives.
That is several names, so many people. How difficult was it to keep moving on? Because it was all you, right? Nobody else told you to, continue what you're doing. You could have stopped at any time, right? So what kept you pushing?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because, in fact, there were a lot of people that told me not to go forward. A lot of people told me that what I was doing was foolish, that I should stay home and be a homemaker, be a stay-at-home mother, so to speak, and that what I was doing would be harmful to my children, which is always a risk when you take those steps and get a lot of criticisms, because especially in those days, because women weren't that much out in the front, of movement. So you have to. One thing my mother did always told me, she said, when people criticize you, as long as what you're doing is right, and you believe in what you're doing, and if you're doing it for other people, don't listen to them. But people just either they're jealous or people are just don't understand what you're doing at the time. So just don't listen to them. Just do what you think in your heart. If you're doing what you think is the right thing, keep on going forward.
I get that all the time after playing sports.
Yeah, so what you really said is inspiring, and I really hope that a lot of people will follow your lead and start fighting for people's rights, and maybe one day the world can be back to the golden ages, perfect and in every way.
I don't think there's ever been a golden age, because if we look at history, if you look at our history, what portrays as a golden age, I mean, even if we look at the history of our country, we were a country that was built on genocide, a country that was built on slavery. And even today, we see people criticizing immigrants when immigrants are the ones that built this country. But, we killed off so many of the Native Americans. We stole so much of the land that we have from Mexico, literally. And so there hasn't been a golden age. I think that we are looking forward to creating a golden age. So we will have people instead of prophets, or ahead of prophets, when people are important, not how much money one has or how much money one can make, especially off of the bodies of other people like farm workers or people that are in prisons, with the private prison corporations, and so we haven't reached that golden age yet, but we have to keep on working for it.
Yeah, I really hope to see that in my generation, my time, before I pass. That'd be one of those that'd be an amazing feeling to know that so many people can be loved all at once, and the hate could be just leave. And there's a lot of issues in today's society with corruption and government officials and stuff. What do you think would be some ways that people could help to eliminate the corruption within our government systems and make the world a better place?
Well, we have to think of where the corruption comes from. The corruption comes from those organizations, corporations that are corrupting our government officials. And I think we have to be careful when we say that, because we know that not all government officials are corrupt, that some may be. And those are the ones that we have to target and we have to get out of office, because we are a democratic society. And our votes are the ones that put people in office. Well, guess what? Our votes are the ones that can take them out of office and can replace them with decent people.
Yeah. Also with corruption, there's the American Revolution. We separated from the British, for reasons of taxation and all these other things. Do you think there may in today's society lead to a second American Revolution?
Well, let me say this. I think that we have to have an American evolution, not a revolution, not an armed revolution, because we do have the tools to educate people. We have the tools, we have the social media, we have democratic societies. But if we do not use the tools that we have, if we do not use the tools of voting, of really examining the people that are running for office, then this is the kind of situation that we find ourselves in when people don't take voting seriously and they decide not to vote, and especially young people, when they don't understand how important it is that they and their families vote, then you can't have a good government if people do not participate. So it's incumbent upon each and every one of us to understand that we have a responsibility. If we want a free society, we have to engage in that free society, and we have to use our tools that we have, the rights that we have, and exercise them.
So one of those people that I think really displays good qualities about that was Gandhi. He, fighting for his people and stuff, and protesting and outlashes from the government. I thought that was really inspirational from him, and Rosa Parks fighting for civil rights and fighting against racism. Those are all powerful things, and we greatly appreciate what you're doing here. It means the world to a lot of people, and you're my idol right now. You have a question?
Okay, so I'm still shocked. I'm sorry. My stomach still hurt. I haven't ate. I want to say so much right now, but I can't think of it. So, what is your opinion for young Americans, Latino Americans, who aren't really given the resources at the moment to go on with their education, such as having to work really early at an age of 15 or 16 or 14? What is your comment on that?
Well, I think that not only Latino children and African American children should have an equality education just as everybody else does. And I think that since we are the richest country in the world, we should have free education for everybody. Our educational system should not mean that if you have a lot of money, you get a good education. And if you don't, your education may not be what it should be. And we know that our teachers are not paid what they should be paid. You can make more money being a prison guard without having to go to college than you can being a teacher, where you have to get a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. So our whole educational system has to be totally revamped and relooked at, and we've got to demand that we have more money for education. When we can have all this money for war, but we don't have money for education, and that really puts our whole democratic society in jeopardy. So I mean, I think that, and I think we're right now in the current stage that we're in right now, that our families have got to come together and demand that our children of color, our minority kids, that they get a quality education. It can happen, but we've got to step up to the plate and demand it.
And what is your response on the type of environment that most of these inner city kids of color have to go through?
Well, it's unfortunate, but we don't have to stand for that. And the parents can make demands because all of our educational system is paid for by taxpayers, and the people in all of these areas, they pay taxes, and they have the right to demand a better education for their children. But again, and they shouldn't feel like it's not theirs. They have to remember that their tax dollars are the ones that are paying for the school and the teachers and everything that comes with it. So they have the right to make demands. And I know a lot of times our families don't feel like they have that right, but so we have to tell them, no, you have that right. If you don't see something that's right in that school, you go out there, but don't try to do it by yourself, because they won't pay attention to you. But you get together and you get a group of parents to go with you, and that's what we do in my organization, the Dolores Huerta Foundation. We meet with the parents and we organize them our first parent conference that we had 155 parents in that parent conference, and so we go to where they're going to talk about the budgets. We go to and see where they're spending the money, and we make demands, and then we also look to see whether these people that are in charge of the school districts, if they are really doing their job, and sometimes they're not, and then we demand their dismissal, because we have to get people in there that are really going to work for our kids.
So we've kind of forgot at the beginning to ask you if you had a time constraint. I just want to make sure that you don't have anything important that you don't want to be missing.
I think we have a lot of time because our plane was just canceled.
Okay, I just wanted to double check because we had forgot to ask.
Flight was canceled. We had to be at the airport.
Well, we could thank the man upstairs for giving us this opportunity to speak with you. So.
And it could be the woman upstairs.
Oh yeah, you know. Yeah. So let's see. If there was one inspirational quote that you could give to us right now, that we could do to change the world, what would that be?
Well, I think to change the world, I would just say organize, 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 and don't quit. Because if we quit, we will lose. But there's something that I saw with a young woman on a march. I was on a march last Saturday, and this young woman had a little sign, and her sign said, "You can cut all the flowers, but you can't hold back the spring." And right now, in the situation that we're in, where we see that they're trying to defund Planned Parenthood, they're trying to take away a lot of programs like Meals on Wheels for elders and things that President Trump is doing. So I just want to remind people, they can do all of these things, but they can't hold back the spring, right? Because spring will come again, people will organize, and whatever they undo, we will fight to bring it back, and we'll fight to make it better.
So in recent times, the whole situation with North Carolina and the transgender bathrooms, is there anything that you're doing to help fight against that?
Oh, actually, we had a really big fight with our local school district to insist on giving our transgender students, give them that right so that they could use a bathroom that they identified with. And it was a big fight. And at the end of the day, what happened that this really right-wing chairman of the school board, guess what? He didn't run for re-election because he knew we were going to beat him. So we had a great victory. And in our organization, we have an LGBT program because we have a lot of homophobia in our Latino community especially. And it's working really well. And one of our staff that we have, Dean Williver, he is a transgender. He is transitioned, and he's one of our staff.
So yesterday we actually interviewed one of the filmmakers for the LGBT community. Do you know who Jenny Olsen is? Have you met her? Can you tell us some insight on how you guys work together in some way to help fight against all the?
Well, no, I haven't worked with Jenny. I just happened to meet her because she happens to be a friend of Peter Brad, who was the director of the movie Dolores. Oh, and we do want to let people know, by the way, if they want to let people know about the movie Dolores, if they could just spread the word, and it's hashtag Dolores the movie. That's DOLORES the movie.
We'll definitely, when we're done here, we'll take a picture with you, and I'll put the hashtag on my Instagram.
On our website also, the kind of work that we do, it's DoloresHuerta.org. That's DOLORESHUERTA.org. And they can look at our website and see the different types of activities that we're doing on civic education, on our LGBT program, on our health programs, and our education program is a big one, and civic engagement.
Do you have any last remarks or anything?
I don't want to mess up again. Thank you.
All right, so I think we're going to wrap it up here. I greatly appreciate you for giving us this amazing opportunity to interview you, and we look forward to seeing you have more successes in the future and helping the communities, and we greatly appreciate that.
I want to thank you both for the interview, and I want to thank you for the flowers.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you.